This video is inspired by a tweet from Pavlaz. When you delete the record from a table, where should it redirect? So we're going to implement in CakePHP. So when we go to the end of our records, we're going to make it so that if we delete everything on the last page, that it successfully handles the issue where, let's make that a bit easier, so we'll put 3 per page. So basically what we're aiming for is if when we delete everything we're on, we won't jump back to page 1, but we'll stay on the page we're on, and if it's no longer existing, that last page, it will go to the previous page. So to get started, just going into our post controller here, and we're going to override the pages per, so we don't want to hit limit equals 3, and once we override it and refresh, we've got 3 records per page there, and we're now going to work on making sure that it jumps back to the same page when you delete something. Okay, so to let the view, or let the delete action know what page we are, we're going to embed the page number and any limit that we might have set into the delete action. So to do that, we're going to grab our limit, so this request get query limit. Now if it returns nothing, we just want whatever we've set as the default, and our page is pretty much the same, get query page, and then we want to set those 2 variables to the view. Now let's go to the view where we go to template and index, and here's our delete button here. I'm just going to add something to this so that when we click the delete button, it will post back to that action the page and any limit value. So if we have a look at the documentation and scroll a little bit, we can see that the data key within the options array will allow us to do that. So array with key values to pass in hidden inputs. So we just specify data or data, and then page equals page, and limit is limit. Now once we've done that, if we go to our here and just refresh and then have a look at our form, our post link form, we can see that we have a hidden value here with page, and there's nothing in the page query at the moment, and we've got a limit of 3. Now if we now go to say page 6 and again have a look, we can see now that they're both filled. So once we have that, whenever we click the delete button, we will get, well, let's have a look at that. So let's go this request get data. So we're just going to dump and die when we press delete. close this and just hit delete. So we're on page 6 now, and we can see that we've got the page and the limit there. So we're going to grab hold of those two values using this and limit and limit. So we now have those values from that post, and now what we want to do is says if the delete is successful, or even if it isn't, the typical behavior is to redirect back to the page 1 of the index value, but we don't want that to happen. What we want to do is we want it to go back to whichever page it was on, and if we've deleted enough items, we want it to go to the previous page. So we might say to ourselves, well, how do we do that? Well, we need to get hold of the pagination settings to figure out if the number of records has changed and the page count has changed. So if we've got a limit set, we definitely want it. So if there's a limit, what we want to do is we want to say that we want to set, so go pagination options equals an empty array, but if there's a limit set, we want to add that limit to these options, and then once we've done that, we want to grab hold of and paginate our posts table using those pagination options. So what that will do is we can then, so once it's paginated, it will add to our request attributes a paging value, and that paging value will contain everything we need. So let's have a look at that to make a decision on which page we want to redirect to. So going here, going back to our index, let's go to our last record here and just hit delete, and here we've done our delete, and we've got 3 per page. If we go back again, you can tell it hasn't been found because it's deleted, because there's now only 11 pages. But if we now go and say something like, let's change that limit equals 4 per page, and then we go to our last page, we can see that once we've done that, we've got correctly set up. So we know that this page count will have the correct per page number, and we can then use the page count to make a decision on where to return to. So here we have a page being passed through that which is the original page count, and after we delete, this paging setup has underneath posts and page count will have the current setup. So what we want to do, we want to say if the old page count is greater, then we want to set page to be equal to that old new page count, because it might be one less. And then we want to redirect and equals that, and then we want to change redirect to have a query string of page number of whatever's in page, and then ultimately redirect back to there. Now there's one challenge here, and it's if there's a limit and the limit's provided by the query string, we also need to add that in. So I'll just move this to above where we're specifying limit, and then do redirect question mark limit. If there is a limit, just pop that in as well, so we don't miss out if the limit changes. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we run our code. So we just want to go back to our index view, go to our last page, perform a delete, and it should, if you look up here, it should stay on page 11, which is good. And then now that we're just about to delete the last record on page 11, it should now change back to page 10, which is exactly what you want it to do. Now that gives you something really logical. You now, whenever you're in on any page, it will go back to the page it was on. But there is a slight issue here. So if I go edit and then edit something, it will jump back to the beginning of the list. So let's now go change the edit action to include this same functionality. So going back to here, this time it's a HTML link. So what we need to do now is come into our URL, and we're going to change this so that it has a query string of the same as this, really, so page and limit, but we can do this slightly differently. We can say compact page and limit, and that will then, if we reload here and have a look at this, we'll see that we have that value being added. And if we go to another page, we can see that the edit has page and limit when it has a value. So once that's done, we can then go into our edit action. So we'll go up and find our edit action, and we want to grab page, this request, and we're getting the query string here, so it's page, and let's just copy and paste and limit and limit, and from that point it's here where it says, well, we want to redirect by default to that, but if there's a page, we want to redirect with page value of page, and if there is a limit, we want to redirect to wherever there's a limit. So let's go here, and we're on, let's page 6 again, or page 7. Let's go to page 7 and go edit, and then go back and fix our missing redirect. You probably noticed I made that mistake already. Let's go here, and as you can see, if I edit something on, this is page 4, you can see it goes back to page 4, and you can see the record that you've just done. So that really makes it a lot more sensible if you want. we now also have it staying on the same page unless you delete the last record on the page, and then it drops to page 9. And this just makes it a little bit nicer, and again that's thanks to a tweet from Povelas that I thought to do this.